Authorities are warning tomorrow could bring the worst fire conditions in the state's history. A warning of catastrophic fire danger is now in place for Greater Sydney, including the Blue Mountains Council area, as well as the Greater Hunter and Illawarra Shoalhaven areas. People are being urged to avoid any bushfire-prone parts of those regions. Around 500 schools and TAFE campuses will be closed across the state as a precaution. For up-to-date information, go to ABC Online or ABC Radio and the News Channel.
At the first sign of fire, Valley Heights resident Carolyn Clark plans to leave with her 94-year-old mother, Gwen Lecomte.
Here we are, Mum.
But she's unsure where they'll go.
I don't know whether I would go to somewhere like Nepean Hospital.
She lived in Winmalee during the 2013 fires and fears her mother won't survive any smoke.
The smoke just infiltrates everything, and that would be difficult for Mum for her breathing.
A state of emergency has been declared, giving the Rural Fire Service special powers to evacuate property and even shut down electricity. More than 350 schools and TAFE campuses will be closed in fire-affected parts of the state, including Sydney.
Under catastrophic conditions, the safest thing you can do is not be in an at-risk area.
For some, those areas are right at their back deck. In Bundeena, on the edge of the Royal National Park, Lynn Teeter's already pulled down the shutters in case she has to leave.
Well, I've lived here for so long that I've been through 3 bad bushfires, so I just do the best I can.
Her neighbour Britta Shield is packing up her pets and sending them to her mother's place.
We can defend it as much as possible, but we're not staying to defend it if our lives depend on it, absolutely not.
Others say they have little choice but to stay and fight, like the owner of this animal kennel in Sydney's north.
You can't just clear off and desert, people's pets.
The kennel staff spent the day learning how to use pumps and hoses to protect their furry clients from ember attacks. Back in the Blue Mountains, Katie Toohey has already had a close call.
The flames were right in that backyard.
The Woodford fire, which reached emergency level on Friday, threatened her street at Hazelbrook. She and her dog Rusty left then, and they'll do the same tomorrow.
I knew that myself and my garden hose weren't ever going to be good enough.
As you can see, the fire here at Woodford came extremely close to homes. So today, local firefighters have been working to put out every single ember so that it doesn't reignite when conditions worsen.
Because this tree being hollow could send embers over into the unburned area.
Veteran firefighter Ted Carroll says tomorrow could be worse than anything he's seen.
In uncharted territory, we just don't know what it's going to be like. We know our area and we know how dry it is. And we know the conditions are going to make it very volatile.
So volatile, the Army may be called in to help evacuate people by air. Kathleen Calderwood, ABC News, Sydney.
So what do catastrophic fire conditions actually mean, and how are they impacted by the weather, Graham?
Well, Nita, they really are impacted by the weather. The stronger and the most dangerous weather conditions produce the highest of the fire ratings. Now, a classic example is what we experienced on Friday. We had lots of fires up around the northeast corner of the state. Today, these fires are still remaining very active. We've seen that smoke. It's been brought down in towards Sydney this afternoon. But these were in severe and extreme fire conditions. Now, as we move into tomorrow, the bushfire danger rating has been pushed up to catastrophic for the Hunter, Sydney and also the Illawarra and Shoalhaven. Now, bushfire danger ratings are based on predicted conditions such as temperature, the relative humidity and the wind, as well as the dryness of the landscape. Now, the higher the fire danger rating, the more dangerous the conditions are. And homes are not designed to withstand fires in catastrophic conditions. And any fires that do start are likely to be so fierce that even a well-prepared, well-constructed and actively defended home may not survive a fire, which is why we're being told to leave areas at risk. So catastrophic fire conditions are, as I said, a combination of humidity, wind strength and temperature, as well as fuel load. Tomorrow, we're going to see a trough and a front move into the state. Now, it's this frontal system that will see northwesterly winds strengthening significantly. It'll bring hot and dry air into those central parts of the state. And then we see an extremely dangerous and gusty southwesterly change move in behind. Now, in Victoria, the Black Saturday bushfires, Ash Wednesday, are all systems that were developed as we saw a southwesterly change move through. So we need extremely dangerous conditions tomorrow.
Thanks for that, Graham. In the state's north, communities have been under constant fire threat for weeks. Our reporter Ashley Raper is in Glen Innes tonight. Ashley, it's been a terrible weekend there. What's the latest on the fires today?
Juanita, progress has been made. Firefighters have been working day and night, putting in containment lines and backburning, but they've achieved all they can ahead of tomorrow, and these bushfires are not under control. And it's not just the two that tore through the communities of Waitalaba and Torrington on Friday. There are at least half a dozen other fires up here, and they're all big. So crews are being strategically placed across this entire area because the Rural Fire Service believes at least one, if not all, could cause a major concern at some point tomorrow.
Yes, well, as we've been hearing, tomorrow the conditions are expected to worsen again. How are people there feeling about that prospect?
There is so much pain and devastation here, but it isn't really being processed yet because of the threat posed by tomorrow's condition. So it's a very different situation to what you normally see when bushfires like this tear through communities. People are still very much in survival mode because they believe this isn't over, and there is a lot of fear among those people who didn't lose their homes. They feel that that could happen tomorrow. So there is a lot for the communities here to come to terms with: grief for the loss of life, sadness for the many homes that have been destroyed, and trauma for those who faced flames and survived. But right now the main focus is on tomorrow and what could happen then. Liv Casbin has this report on another tense day.
This lush farmland was once seen as a haven for tree changers, but in Tollington near Glen Innes, all that's changed.
You couldn't see, the smoke was so thick and you couldn't breathe.
Linda Birch ran to her garage when the fire hit like a freight train.
It's not sealed, so there was raining embers inside the shed and smoke was inside the shed, and there were 6 or 7 of us in there. And we thought we were going to die.
The remains of a dozen homesteads show how close danger came. Similar scenes are playing out up and down the coast. In Taree, evacuee Dan Beard has just returned home.
I thought we wouldn't have a house. Everything, photos, everything, all we left with was a pair of clothes. And
he won't be staying long.
Yeah, we've got to get out again. Apparently there's going to be more wind, hot temperatures tomorrow, and we're just not going to risk it. We grabbed some more clothes, some more blankets because we've been freezing in the tent.
The rolling evacuations and closed roads mean town centres are facing the strain.
There was several thousand people trapped for nearly 3 days in Albar, could not get out on the only road, so we've been massively busy.
The RFS says that across the North Coast region, more than 150 homes have been lost and 3 people have died. And authorities warn with dire conditions tomorrow, fires could spread across the state with more homes and lives at risk. In Mount Nardi, RFS crews warn they can't save everyone's property.
And our crews are very well experienced now because we've been at it for a while. But we're not going to save all of them. Some of them are just indefensible.
And he worries many locals have ignored warnings.
I've been asking people for months and years to clear around their houses, and this days like today and tomorrow is why. If we can't have a crew there safely next to your house, I'm not going to lose fireys to save something that someone couldn't care about themselves enough to clear.
In response to the crisis, the community is pulling together.
Clothing is being donated, food is being donated, and all of the evacuation centres are an indication of just what mankind can do for mankind.
A giving spirit helping to replace what the firestorms stole away. Liv Casbin, ABC News, Taree.
The state government has announced a 7-day state of emergency for New South Wales after advice from fire authorities. I'm joined now by the Premier Gladys Berejiklian. Premier, what convinced you to declare a state of emergency?
The conditions we're experiencing tomorrow, Juanita, are simply unprecedented, and it was a no-brainer for me when the advice was presented. We need to ensure there's a strong command tomorrow, that everybody knows who's in charge, and also we don't take the decision lightly, but we need to know that where we need to evacuate people, where we need to take possession of certain assets, that we need to do that. My first priority, the priority of the government, and of course all emergency personnel, is to protect life and protect property, and given the exceptional circumstances tomorrow and in the next few days, it was simply an easy decision for us to take in terms of calling it a state of emergency.
So what practical difference will it make to how the emergency is managed?
Well, it means it ensures greater coordination, so all the authorities know that ultimately decision-making is left to Commissioner Fitzsimons to make sure that people know that his authority, his decision-making is based on best information he has. It ensures that he is able to force evacuations where necessary. He's able to enter property at will to make sure that we protect life. These are just some of the conditions that exist in a state of emergency, and we're doing this as a precaution. We hope it won't come to that. But we know tomorrow, with high temperatures in the high 30s, winds predicted to be between 80 and 100 kilometres an hour in some parts of the state. These are conditions that are horrific given what we've already experienced in New South Wales in the last few days, in fact weeks, and we need to take every precaution. This is about making sure there's no stone left unturned, and that we're taking every precaution to keep the community safe. Again, Juanita, it's not a decision I took lightly or the government took lightly, but we feel, given what we're facing, given the level of catastrophic definition applied to many parts of the state, that this is what is in the best interest of our people.
Premier, we're hearing a lot from farmers, firefighters and bushfire victims today that they're frustrated with the lack of government action on climate change. Now, you've said now is not the time to discuss that, but are you prepared to discuss it once this immediate crisis is over?
Juanita, my government has always been prepared to discuss that. I'm someone who believes in climate change. But when you're talking to people who've just escaped death, who face death, who are worried about their properties, their homes being there or not, that is our immediate priority. And I don't apologise for expressing that sentiment. We are talking about keeping people alive, keeping their homes safe. Now, these are the priorities we have to look at today in the next few days, and I find it disappointing when people want to talk about other things. We really have to talk about keeping the community safe and also alerting everybody, whether you live in Sydney or the regions or any other part of the state, that tomorrow is not a day for complacency. Our focus has to be on keeping each other safe, no matter where you live, to make sure that people have updated information on the threats that their community faces directly, but also that things can change very quickly. You might be in the clear one minute, and the next minute your life or your property could be under threat. We're asking everybody to be alert, to listen to the messages, to download the app Fire Near Me New South Wales. Please make sure everybody has that information. That has to be our priority. Let's leave discussion on related matters to another state. At another stage. That's all we're saying. We just want everyone to focus on protecting life and property. And of course we'll have those discussions. We've never shied away from those. But when you face people who are protesting, I often say to them, well, why don't you help out people who've just lost everything? Let's have these discussions another day.
OK, Premier, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for your time tonight, Premier Gladys Berejiklian.
Thank you, Anita.
We're joined now by RFS Deputy Commissioner Rob Rogers. Rob, do you think that New South Wales is as prepared as it can be for what might happen tomorrow?
Absolutely. Look, the government has absolutely said do whatever we need to do to get New South Wales as ready as it can be. We've got every firefighter we can get. We've got every aircraft we can get. We've got military aircraft coming in to help us to look at rescuing people if people are stuck. Absolutely everything we can do is being brought to bear tomorrow. So I think there's extra patrols looking for early starts. Police have got aerial patrols making sure they're helping us look for new fires. I don't think there's a stone that's unturned that we haven't taken. There's no step I don't think we haven't taken.
Now, a lot of our Sydney viewers will remember the bushfires of 1994 when suburbs like Lane Cove and Wahroonga were on fire. How likely is that to happen again?
Well, look, it's potential. Look, at the end of the day, the conditions will be there for one of those fires if they start in somewhere like Lane Cove, Killara, Terry Hills, Sutherland, the Blue Mountains, Western Sydney, any of those areas, the Hunter, all of those areas are really, the conditions are there. The only thing that is needed is a fire to start. So that's where the community can come into it. If the community plays its part, if you see smoke, if you see a fire and you don't see a fire truck at it, report it immediately to 000, because as quick as you can let us know that, we can have fire trucks there and hopefully get these fires under control. What we hope for is at the end of tomorrow, we know we're going to have problems in the northern part of the state. We're going to have problems with fires there because we've got so many fires. But what we'd like to see is that all the fires that get reported tomorrow in those areas of catastrophic, we say we've managed to contain them all. If that will be the measure of success for us.
Deputy Commissioner Rob Rogers, thanks for your time this evening.
Thank you.